Hi guys, what's going on, and welcome back to another episode of Total War Arena. So we are revisiting the Tier 4 Barbarian Infantry, I couldn't pronounce this last time, the War Band, that's what we went with. So I did a video on these probably a couple of weeks ago now. I didn't really get on all that well with them. I sort of struggled to get decent engagements, and I'm sure if any of you watched the video, you remember I sort of just spent the entire game running away and didn't really achieve a lot. But I have since been playing them a reasonable amount. I had sort of another 10-15 games with them. Took on board some of the advice I got given at the time for that video, and I have found them a lot more enjoyable. So we've got them fully upgraded now. So we've got the helmet, a very slight increase in body armour and morale, not particularly useful. The war paint, which gives them a little bit more speed to sacrifice for slight armour. I think really barbarians aren't armoured infantry. What's the point in carrying a small amount of armour? I'd rather have the movement speed. And I had the choice of the two swords, and in the end I feel personally melee attack is superior to melee weapon damage. No point having high damage if you can't actually land a hit, so the melee weapon attack I think is more important. So I went with that. Other than that, I've been mainly really trying to make sure I use my Flaming Torch ability, Scorched Earth, more sparingly, rather than throwing it with all three units at once. I separate it, trying to make use of it in engagements and that sort of thing, and by using them each unit individually, gives them a few more options about when to deploy it and stuff like that. So that's been quite good. So let's hop into a replay and let's see how we got on. So you join me on Alpes Grassis, the snow-covered Alps map, with my Tier 4 Barbarian Warband. So yeah, as I say, I've been really enjoying these guys. Obviously I wasn't quite fully upgraded at this point of the battle because I've still got the body armour equipped and I haven't got any helmets. So we've still got a bit, they get better than this later on. But I had this as a really enjoyable game, although I had a bit of a shaky start. For whatever reason, I've started recently gaining a bit of CPU lag in some of my games. And this one struck right at the start of the game. I had like 20 seconds CPU lag. So it took me a while to actually get going, but I'd much rather have it at the start of the game than midway through. So yes, I had that, which is a bit strange, but in the end I got moving. So as I'm sure you know, the higher mobility of barbarians means that they get a bonus in forests, which means they get plus 25% melee attack and melee defense, and they don't get much of a range damage penalty, a movement penalty either. So they work pretty well in forests compared to other heavy infantry like the Romans. Although one common misconception I've sort of found is that people think it's the barbarians that get the forest bonus, where it's not. It's based on your mobility. So I think I can't remember exactly what it is. It's something like if you have over 500 mobility, you get the forest bonus, whereas if you have very low mobility, you get combat bonuses on roads. So that's why the Romans tend to get combat bonuses on roads, and barbarians tend to get combat bonuses in the forests. But there are exceptions to this. So yes, it's based on mobility, not unit class. Anyway, first things first, I push into the forest, obviously, as I'm saying I want to be in the forest, and I spot this unit of Hastati over here, and another one being engaged down here. Since this one here, this Ozzy Osbourne 93, doesn't look like he's paying attention, I use one of my units to throw some torches at him. And indeed he isn't paying attention, he's too engrossed in this fight over here, and so, well, I'm not going to get stuck in, I'll just leave him there to burn for a while. And eventually he realises, but look, it's took him, what, 4,500 damage? I then throw javelin throws at him, and so we get him before he's even made it into the fight with my infantry. We get to like over 11,000 damage. He then uses his heavy infantry charge to escape from the fire, but he uses it too early, so he doesn't hit my own unit, so he doesn't do any damage there. And I just split up. One unit frontally, one on each flank, just immediately routes. Minus 37 morale, and you know, that's that. We took, what, 1,000, 15 and 2,500 damage, and we've basically destroyed his entire unit. And the leader fire disappears just in time for me to chase him. And we begin to pursue him through the woods. I lose a little bit of ground initially, and I do blob up a little bit here, which is an error. I use my harass to charge into him, more for the knockdown. And we have a slight little bit of a panic situation as this other unit of Hastati turns on me here, which isn't exactly ideal. But I just notice in time I don't want to get hit in a blob, so I manage to separate my units out a little bit, and I engage with just one of my units. This unit here, which leaves me 2 free units here to try and do a bit more on the flanks. Now, for whatever reason, he then tries to pull past my unit that he's engaged with to attack these barbarians over here, which just means he takes about 5,000 damage for no reason, because his units stop fighting against my guys here and focus on these, which means they take a lot of damage. You can see how much damage they're taking compared to me. Not to mention the fact we are also in a forest, so I'm getting my melee attack bonus, which is great. Yes, that's working really well. So I flank with my other unit, and because I've been saving my fires, not using them all units, it gives me a free fire, which I throw straight into the back of him. At the same time, I see these dogs coming in, which are a massive threat. So I throw some javelins at them, which not hugely effective, but actually does a little bit of damage. And for whatever reason, they decide to turn back, which was a good thing from my point of view, because it meant I've not got anything else to contend with, and I can just focus on this unit here. Now, I could have pushed into the side of him here, possibly, and assisted, get him to rout, but since he's stood on the fire, and we're kind of winning the engagement anyway because we have the forest bonus, it seems sensible just to pull out and just leave this unit engaged because they're not really on the fire, and just let him stand there and burn to death in the combat, really. Let's go back to full speed. And as you can see, he's just basically stuck there, burning to death and fighting against effectively a superior unit because he's, in the forest. As the fire ends, we move in along with some friendly Romans, and before you know it, he is routed and destroyed. And we've pretty much wiped out 2 units of enemy Hastati full strength units, and we've lost, 50% of 1 unit? So I think that was a really good opening engagement. It's got us 1500 aggression damage. I was really pleased with how that went. Shows that barbarians are competitive against Romans, so long as you're fighting on your terms, not theirs. So naturally, I move up to the next forest line as we come over here. I think all my... I've got 2 units have still got their Scorched Earth available. 1 unit is coming around to being recharged again already. So then I'm sort of looking for my next target, which is these are the dog handlers, I think, who ran away from us earlier. So I emerge from the forest. I'm just trying to bait them into fighting me, really. I want them to engage me because I think that's the best thing I can do. I see they come. I try and form up because I want all my units to be able to throw their javelins together because we've still got some javelin tossers. And 3 units of javelins will do a reasonable amount of damage. I think we get that in, which we do. Which, we probably take about half health off one of the dog units. Then we get our charge in as well. Our harass with our infantry, which works quite well. Basically kills off that 1 unit. And I think it's probably an error for them to retreat from that fight because they took quite a lot of losses and basically dealt no damage to me. And you get a lot of points for dealing dog damage, so that's 2,300 aggression points now we're up to. And we've killed off almost one of their entire units of dogs. And then they go and do the same thing anyway. Whether it's just to try and hold us up, maybe. But they would have been better sticking in the fight initially, I think, rather than just sort of pulling out and pushing straight back in. But we cut these dogs down pretty effectively. I do cluster up here too much, which was an error on my part, but I pull one of my units back. I quickly try and get a flame in, which we do before we get engaged from this unit, which is exactly what we wanted. We use a harass, we slam into them, do quite a lot of damage, knocking quite a few of their units getting flung into the flames, but they're lying on the floor burning to death, which was quite enjoyable. And you see the amount of damage we start to ruthlessly rack up here so quickly on these dog handlers, and the remaining of them are just stood in the fire, so we're doing a lot of damage. All their dogs are now dead, up to almost 4,000 aggression points from slaughtering all these dog handlers. I didn't want to push this. Why I didn't pull this unit a little bit further out because some of my units stood on the edge of taking friendly fire damage from the flames, which I should have, and I should certainly be reacting a little bit quicker here. I think I might have had another CPU lag moment here, which caused this sort of momentary lag in control because a lot of my units have stopped controlling themselves, which is the problems with some of the CPU lags we have. And there we go. I'm back in the match. Yes, definitely one of the problems I've been having. Hopefully that's something that's going to be addressed in the 3.1 patch. But yeah, despite this, a little bit unfortunate that we lost control of the units a little bit there, and we did take quite a lot of damage as a result of that. But not to worry, all the enemy dogs are dead, and it's just a case of finishing off these handlers, which we do quite ruthlessly. Cut down these remaining guys. How are we getting on? Over 4,500 aggression damage. And our allies are in the process of capturing the enemy base, which is great, and pretty much everyone is dead. I don't think there's really anyone left alive. We finished off those remaining handlers. And maybe a couple of Barbarian Infantry. Or a couple of Hastati over here left alive. But I don't think they're going to be left alive for very long, as they get rear flanked by more Barbarians. I just slowly push my units towards the enemy base, but this battle is pretty much over. So hopefully that was an enjoyable battle to watch. I think I sort of made much better use of the torches than I did previously. Certainly using them all in one move is not so good as separating them out, because that gives you a lot more tactical options. I occasionally blob together a little bit, but I tried to make sure I was separate before engaging in combat. I was trying to basically make sure I was doing properly what I should do with my cavalry, but I don't, which is, blobbing together. I'm trying to separate to fight units individually, which gives me the option to throw flames, javelins, that sort of thing, and get flanking maneuvers to break enemy units. Because obviously if you can get a unit on each flank, or the rear and a flank, while engaging them frontally, then they'll almost certainly rout. And then, a routing unit is a dead unit because you can just cut it down pretty easily. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. We're certainly going to be rapidly pushing on, I think, to the Phalanxmen first, to be honest, because I'm kind of curious about how these are going to play out. We'll be having a go with these with Vercingetorix. I also want to perhaps try using the Phalanxmen with Boudica. I know another sort of, probably one of the best Boudica players, a bloke called Robert Oakridge, who's also got a YouTube channel, I believe, uses Boudica for Phalanxmen, and I think that was kind of interesting. So yeah, I wanted to have go with Boudica as an infantry commander, so that's certainly something we'll be trying out shortly. So stay tuned for the Phalanxmen in the next video. Give this video a like, subscribe for more Total War Arena content, and I shall see you all on the next episode.